Rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. O my Lord, expand for me my chest, ease for me my task, and remove the impediment from my speech so they may understand what I say. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Radio Ramadan on 87.7 FM. I hope it's been a really blessed Ramadan for you all so far. My name's Asiya and I'm here to present a show called Big Journeys, Little Lives. I'd like to start by reminding you of the text or WhatsApp number, which is 077 488 55055. That's 077 488 55055. Or the phone number for the studio, which is 0116 4822 086. 0116 4822 086. We're live on Facebook and YouTube, so get in touch with us wherever you'd like to. And we'd like to see texts and things coming in so that we can read them out and we know that people are out there listening. Jazakallah for those of you who have tuned into my shows in the previous years. I'm back again this Ramadan, inshallah, every Thursday between 2 and 3 p.m. I have Komal Bhatt with me here as my guest in the studio today. Hi, Komal. How are you?
Hi, Asiya. Thanks for having me on the show today. I'm good, thank you. And I'm just here to support Leicester Hospitals this weekend, especially for the Big Pledge weekend. In November 2017, I had a spontaneous birth and my little boy Prem was born.
Amazing. We're going to go into some questions and a bit of a discussion with Komal in just a second around her experience and Prem, her little boy who is now 6. Is that right? Yeah, amazing. But I'm going to remind you again, you're listening to Asiya here on Radio Ramadan 87.7 FM, text line 077 488 55055 or the studio line 0116 4822 086. If you'd like to text anything in, please do. Let us know how we're doing throughout the show. And please do text in messages of support and that kind of thing if you can over the course of the discussion here with Komal. So, Leicester Hospitals Charity, who are we? Well, text from my sister, sorry. Hey Asiya, it's me, your one and only fave sis, lol, listening in, just finished work, very good. Thank you, Farah. So, Leicester Hospitals Charity, who are we? We are the official charity for the 3 hospitals in Leicester. We fund into every department across all 3 sites, Leicester Royal Infirmary, Leicester Glenfield Hospital, and the Leicester General Hospital. And we are here to support the work of our staff. We fund their ideas where we can. We are here to make care kinder for our patients and for their families. At the moment, we are going to be working on, over the course of this weekend, a Big Pledge weekend, which is our live appeal currently to raise a good amount of money in order to support the neonatal intensive care transfer service that we have called Centre. To launch that today, I'm here with Komal, who's going to share a little bit with us about her little boy's story. Komal, would you be able to share with me about Prem and how Prem was born and how you came about to supporting Leicester Hospitals Charity?
Sure. So Prem was born in November 2017. As I mentioned, he was a spontaneous birth, so we weren't expecting him. His due date wasn't until January the 21st. I woke up at 30 weeks pregnant, just had quite a heavy bleed. I'd had very normal pregnancy to that point, not really had any complications or experienced anything like that until that day. I remember waking my husband up and calling the maternity assessment unit straight away, who obviously wanted to get me in to get me checked out. When I arrived at the hospital, at that point, they didn't have that many concerns because a third trimester bleed can sometimes happen. They checked Prem, they monitored his heartbeat, and everything looked quite normal. He seemed quite, comfortable and happy. So they weren't too concerned at that point. Later in the day, so they wanted to keep checking me every sort of half an hour or so. And later that day, sort of the bleeding hadn't stopped, so they decided that they would keep me in for observations, at least until sort of things had calmed down. So I was put into a ward with sort of lots of other women that were kind of going into labour, so they were ready to give birth. And in my mind, I'm thinking I've still got 10 weeks to go. I'll just be home later today or tomorrow. But yeah, I just ended up staying in, having Prem monitored, and everything seemed fine. No calls for distress or anything like that. The next day, I had to stay in overnight. They weren't ready to send me home. My husband kind of would come in, spend the day with me, and the bleeding sort of kind of eased off a little bit, and I was feeling a bit better. And I was really excited. I was thinking, I'm going to go home now. Everything's fine. And we said, we've been on the ward all day. Can we just take a walk to the cafe? And we decided to just go and have something to eat. On the way back from the cafe, I started to get some niggling pains, and the nurses had said, it's probably just Braxton Hicks. Maybe some painkillers will help. And as the day went on, the pain sort of got worse over the next hour or so. I sent Adish over to the nurse, and the nurse said, we'll give her some painkillers. This should ease it off. But at that time, obviously, being pregnant, I didn't want to take any tablets. I wasn't okay with taking anything. But the pains ended up getting really severe, I'd say, where I couldn't take it anymore. And I think that's when we kind of knew that something was wrong, because I was just like, please just get me some painkillers. My bump had changed shape. Wow. And the pain, it was just, it's like you're being crushed. It was really, really bad. At the time, it was shift change in the hospitals as well. So there weren't, the staff were kind of quite scarce. There weren't many staff around. And my husband Adish went back to the doctors, the nurses, and said, she's in some severe pain. Can somebody at least come and have a look at her? And they came over and examined me, and the nurse kind of was shocked. They went into a bit of panic, and they said, well, Prem's coming. She's fully dilated. He's on his way out.
Wow.
So I was in complete shock, because there were no signs throughout the day. You've been in hospital. If they thought something was going to happen, they would have picked up on it by now. But they hadn't, and yet Prem was on his way at that point. So it caused a bit of chaos within the hospital. They had to get the delivery room ready, and they knew I was 30 weeks, so Prem was 10 weeks premature if he was on his way out now. So they had to make sure the neonatal team were there. There were just so many different people in that room at that time. It was chaos, and it just, the time flew. Prem was kind of born within an hour, so I had very, very short labour and very, very unexpected. And I was in denial probably for most of the time that they were wheeling me in, because I was saying, no, it's not time, he can't come now. And my husband Adish was saying, no, you've got to be ready, he's coming now. And he's better being in the hospital at this point, being out.
And
where
how
they can
lucky
take
for you that you were in the hospital at the time.
Yeah. Because otherwise I don't know how we would have coped. During the birth, it was quite tricky, because towards the end, Prem's stats started to drop. He was starting to get quite distressed. And the doctor was saying that obviously they might have to intervene at that point, which would not have been very good for Prem, because he was just tiny.
But how big was he, if you don't mind me asking?
He was just less than 3 pounds when he was born, 1.49 kilos. So he was literally tiny.
Extremely small,
really small. And when he came out, we didn't really, most people will give birth and then they'll be able to have their baby for a cuddle. And,
so they're all skin-to-skin contact, which is so important, isn't it?
And you're expecting, you've dreamt of how this day is going to be, but it just isn't like that. The doctor said, we're going to have to put him on your tummy for 2 seconds, and then take him away.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they did.
Wow.
So that was quite heartbreaking, actually,
Yeah.
because, you know, you just want to hold him because you're like, you know, is he okay?
Yeah,
The first thing is he okay?
Yeah.
And then just the fact that they've got to take him away, but they have to do what's right for him.
Of course, yeah.
And they were brilliant, actually.
Yeah. Amazing to hear that they were very good. We'll go into the next part of Prem's journey and your journey in a second. We've had a message come in. I can't see a name there anywhere, but it says, Salams Asiya, hope you're well. My baby was born 9 weeks premature on October 31st, 2023. My waters broke at 29 weeks. I have followed your journey with Yahya and pre-Yahya too. I couldn't stop thinking about what you had been going through while I sat next to my baby's incubator. I remember you saying how you wanted to raise money for the parent areas. It's a very emotional time. Being in hospital daily was extremely difficult, considering I was also recovering from labour. The nurses were amazing and so caring, but there is definitely a lack of funding for parental support. I think what you're doing is amazing, and I hope we can raise as much money as we can. Jazakallah so much. That's a lovely message. So for those of you who are listening to me for the first time, I got involved with Leicester Hospitals Charity because of my son, Yahya, a few years ago. Similar to Komal's journey in some shape and form, with Prem fundraising for us now, and you'll hear a little bit about that in a moment. But that message is in reference to some personal fundraising that I've been doing for better quality or better areas for parents to have breaks in and that kind of thing. This fundraising is slightly different from what I'm doing personally, but absolutely get in touch with me on my personal Instagram if you want to hear any more about that. It's Asiya.Parekh on Instagram if you wanted to find me there. Komal, we've just got to the point where Prem has just been born. He was given to you to sort of hold on your stomach for 2 seconds before he was whisked away by what I'm assuming was the neonatal intensive care team at the time. Where did you give birth? Were you at the General or were you at the Leicester Royal?
Leicester General.
Leicester General, okay. And tell us what happened from then on then. What happened from there?
So Prem was born at 2:08. We actually didn't see Prem again after he was taken away until about 10:30, 11 o'clock that night. So it was quite a big wait. The neonatal team had to, do what they had to do to get him safe and in a good space, I think. When we did get to go and see him, he was already in the incubator. He was already with the feeding tube. The monitors were on, checking his pulse and things like that. To be honest, you can't imagine how it would feel until you're in that situation. We had never, people don't speak about premature birth, and we'd only really known about one case of it happening, but you don't actually understand how scary it is and how life-changing it is, really, because you sort of go into like a whirlwind of feelings and emotions, and it just, I don't know, I think it just changes you as a person. It shapes you as a person.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. It's a really difficult and very emotional time. You've just given birth, and so your hormones are a little bit wild anyway, as they would be for any new mum. And then on top of that, you've seen your child in this medical incubator with various different wires and tests being done, and a feeding tube where you think you're maybe going to breastfeed, or you're going to bottle feed, or whatever that might look like for you in what you had imagined. It's completely different from that. In that moment, and I understand exactly what that's like with having Yahya in a similar situation. So you're at the Leicester Royal Infirmary. Interventions are happening for Prem by the neonatal team. You have got your husband there for support, I'm assuming.
Yes,
you're a new mum. You're extremely concerned. You're worried. What happened from then on? What happened after that?
The hospital actually had to call in the neonatal consultant, who wasn't actually on shift that day because they weren't expecting any premature births. And he came in, and he said that he'd examined Prem, and surprisingly, Prem was doing better than they expected. Usually when they're in the incubators, their oxygen will be on, sort of giving them the support and helping them breathe. But he said, Prem's doing a lot of the breathing himself. We've kind of just put it on there as a precaution, because I think one of the reasons that was so surprising was because the whole birth was sort of not expected. I didn't have the steroids that they would normally give to help to develop his lungs.
Yeah.
So I guess that was kind of like a miracle. But he was doing well, but he did say that obviously the right place for Prem right now is not Leicester General Hospital, because the specialists are in LRI, so they would be moving Prem.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be able to move that day, which was like another knock, really.
Yeah. And that's because of your recovering from labour?
That's why, yeah. So they said, you've got to stay here on the ward. But they reassured me that, Prem would be transported. We'd kind of be kept in the loop of, where he is, how he is, has he settled in once he gets to LRI. And they were very reassuring. And we went back up to the ward, and Prem was transported around midnight to LRI, to the high dependency unit in neonatal. And
this was the second day of you being at the Leicester General?
Yeah, so, this was day 3 now.
Day 3,
yeah.
Okay. We've got, sorry to cut you off there, Komal, we've got another message. We're tuning in from the Leicester Hospital's charity office and touched by Komal's story all over again, and so pleased to have her and Prem involved in supporting the Big Pledge weekend, which is this coming weekend. It's from Lydia, Freya, Sarah, Cam, Maliha and Becky. That's my lovely team that are listening in the office. Thank you, guys. We have just heard from Komal about her heart-wrenching story of giving birth to Prem and having to be separated from him in such a short space of time, not being able to have a strong connection in the first few days with her newborn premature baby, not being able to do much around that time, I'm assuming, in terms of any of the feeds or any of the changes or anything like that. Komal has been told that Prem needs to move over to the Leicester Royal Infirmary, to the high dependency care service for the neonatal centre. It's a level 3 unit at the Leicester Royal Infirmary, which is probably the reason why the transfer was made, because of more complex additional needs. And Komal couldn't go with him. I just want you the listeners, to take a moment and imagine what that feels like. Just imagine what it feels like to stay behind when your baby has been given over to the care of someone else. They've been given into the care of ambulance staff, the centre service staff, and you have to trust them 100% to take your baby, your newborn, very small baby, from one hospital site to another, while you can't travel with that child in that moment because you're still recovering from labour. Just imagine how that would feel. Imagine how heart-wrenching it would be to have to stay behind while your baby is transported. And the reason why I want you to do that is because of the fundraising appeal that we've got coming up this coming weekend. We are fundraising for Centre. The service that Centre refers to is the transfer service for neonatal intensive care babies. These can be premature children or newborn babies that are transferred by the Centre service between hospital sites. We're going to be fundraising for a double pod system where we can transfer twins together in one journey. The reason why Komal's supporting us and we're here today is to tell you a little bit about what it feels like to be separated from your child when your child is transferred. And in the case of twins at the moment, there is no facility to be able to transfer them together. They have to be transferred separately because the medical equipment and the trolley and the double pod incubator system just isn't available. So we are going to be fundraising for a very first for Leicester. It's a brand new piece of kit. It's going to be incredibly supportive to the parents and the children that are having to utilise it across the course of many years to come. And we'll tell you a little bit about that in a moment. We want to hear from Komal again in just a second, but we've got another message. Hi, Asiya and Komal. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, but also thank you so much for all you do for our charity, our NHS, and our communities. Lots of love, all at Leicester Hospital's charity. Thank you, guys, my team again. No, we're all, you know, an incredible team. We do amazing work, and I think this coming weekend will really show what the community is capable of, and what we're capable of doing in terms of making a huge change to try and keep families united across these really, really incredibly difficult times. Komal, this is, you know, a little bit touchy for you, and I completely appreciate if you didn't want to go into huge amounts of depth, but how was that? What was that like? I mean, I've sat here and explained about what I think it's like. I was very lucky not to be separated from Yahya when he was transferred from the Leicester Royal Infirmary where I gave birth to the Leicester Glenfield where the cardiac services were then. I went in the ambulance with him, so I was incredibly lucky not to be separated from him in that moment. But what was that like for you? I can't imagine what that must have been like to hand your child over to people who you've probably met once.
It felt really unnatural, to be honest. You know, like throughout the pregnancy, you're kind of hoping that, you know, your baby will be born, then you'll kind of be on a ward with your baby, and then everything's just sort of, all of those dreams are kind of gone then, and it's just heartbreaking, I think, because like the natural thing would be, I just want to cuddle my baby, you know, I want to have a look at him, I want to see how he looks, you know, I just want to spend time with him, you know, Adish wanted to spend time with him. That I think that was really hard, and I think that kind of brought on a lot of separation anxiety for me. Yeah. And that has lasted for quite a long time, I think, because it's just not something that, you know, that anybody would want to do. You're kind of forced into a situation where it's the right choice for your child. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it was just, you know, went back to the ward and didn't sleep, just waiting to keep hearing back from the ambulance service, you know, and they were excellent. You know, they said he's settled. He's traveled, like, you know, when he left the hospital, they said, you know, we're leaving the hospital, now he's arrived, he's settled, there haven't been any sort of issues. So it's very reassuring, but it's still just, it's not enough. You just actually want to be there. Of course you do, yeah. Yeah. This service called Centre, you've touched on, you know, they were incredible in terms of updating you and how the journey went. When you were finally reunited with Prem, I'm assuming it was a few days after, a day after? It was the next day. Next day. Yeah. When you were finally reunited with Prem, can you just paint me a little picture about how that felt? That was... It's really hard to explain. It was just such an amazing feeling. I woke up the next day, sort of, I think the adrenaline kicks in. You just like, you know, I don't want anything. I just want to be with Prem. Got ready, asked to be discharged, and then went straight to the hospital. Adish picked me up. We went to the hospital, and entering the neonatal unit, I think it's a bit daunting because all you can see all around you are incubators, lots of sound, lots of beeping, and you're just trying to look around to see where's my baby? Yeah. Where's my baby in all of this? And yeah, we got to his incubator, and you know, you can't believe how tiny he is, and you know, it's only been one night, but he looks so different. Yeah. So the nurses were really, really nice. The doctors were really nice, and they let us hold him straight away. They said, you know, just do the skin to skin for both of us, for me and Adish. That's amazing. We both got a little bit of time to have skin to skin, but obviously he couldn't be out of the incubator for a long time. They had to have him back in just to help regulate his temperature. Yeah. But that, I remember that day. I don't forget that day. I just know how it felt just to hold him, and he was so tiny, and you're scared because you're like, am I going to hurt him? Yeah. You know, like I've never held a baby that small before. But you know, you're just holding him and you're thinking, this is my baby, like, you know, this is it, and now I don't have to be anywhere else, I can be here. Yeah. So it was lovely. That's amazing.
After that, Komal, share with me a little bit about how the journey from the LRI then continued. How did Prem get stronger, get better, and what was your road to coming home like?
So Prem spent 2 weeks in LRI, where he's kind of in the between high dependency, low dependency. And obviously the days were very up and down. There were good days, and then there were days that were really worrying and quite bad. And, you'd come in the morning and then you'd see, him with some sort of new machinery around him and things, new equipment around him. And yeah, sometimes it was quite scary and I think a bit overwhelming. But he did well and he was strong and, he still is strong. But he managed to get to the point where they felt he was stable enough to now move to the neonatal nursery at Leicester General.
Okay.
So he would have to be moved back again.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, I think that was like maybe one of the days where we were probably really stressed out.
Yeah.
Just having moved back because he was having a not so great day.
Okay.
And the move was happening on the same day.
Yeah.
So that was
Tell me a little bit about that move. What was that like? So that you're at the Leicester Royal Infirmary. You're going back to the Leicester General, where you're going to spend a little bit of time at the General's newborn nursery. Is what it probably was a few years back. What was that like? What exactly was that situation in terms of the transfer like?
So that day, I think Prem had nappy rash.
Okay.
He was very distressed. He was very unsettled. So he was crying so much that he was then struggling to breathe. And, all you can hear is just the alarms going off on the monitors. And, I was getting very stressed out because the nurses have to come and manage him and deal with, just getting him settled and stable. And you kind of just want to go and pick him up and, just cuddle him and make everything better. And you can't. So the ambulance service arrived again. And actually at that time, Prem just had kind of quite a distressed episode, I'd say. He wouldn't stop crying. It was like he was hyperventilating. He was not in a good place at that time. So it must have taken maybe an hour, bit longer, even just to get him calm enough to be taken down. That journey, I could go with him in the ambulance, which obviously I was really much happier about doing, but I just kind of wanted him to get through the door and into the other door, because that...
As quick as possible.
That ambulance ride, especially since he's been so distressed, you don't actually know
how that's going to go.
Whether he'll be fine, whether he's going to cry on the way, and then that was a stressful day.
And you're in that situation, I imagine, where you're with your gorgeous little baby in the ambulance, and of course he's in an incubator. You can't carry him during that journey. What was that like? What was it like to be in the ambulance but not being able to actually do anything for him, not being able to touch him or not being able to hold him on you during that journey?
Very tense.
Yeah.
I was just leaning over from my seat, kind of watching his every movement. Is he okay? If he kind of makes a little sound, is he going to get distressed? Is he going to cry? You can still... The ambulances are a bit louder than... The machines are a bit louder in there, I think, and so it is very... It's
a smaller space, isn't it?
Yeah. So you can just hear everything, and it just sounds really chaotic.
Yeah. And had Prem have been, quite settled and quite stable, how would you have felt being able to travel with him on you?
That would have been amazing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I ask you that because as part of the fundraising efforts for this weekend, we are also raising money for these 3 kangaroo harnesses. What these are medical infant transfer devices that you can harness a baby to a parent and have an ambulance ride with them on you. So these are for more stable, maybe slightly older infants, so maybe in Prem's situation, it wouldn't have been a possibility if he was already very unsettled. But if he was settled well and if he was very stable and he was slightly older, you would have been able to travel with him harnessed to you using this Kangaroo Fix medical harness device. And that is going to make a huge difference to parents across Leicester. So if you're new here, if you've just joined us, we are on Ramadan FM 87.7. Studio line is 0116 4822 086. The text or WhatsApp number is 077 488 55055. That's 077 488 55055. We're live on Facebook and YouTube. You can follow Ramadan FM on Instagram, and you can also follow Leicester Hospitals Charity on Instagram. It's at LH Charity. I'm Asiya. I'm the Corporate Fundraising Officer for Leicester Hospitals Charity, and I'm here with Komal Bhatt, if you've just joined us. And we're talking about her journey of giving birth to her gorgeous little boy, Prem, and their journey from then until now, really. And our Big Pledge weekend, which is Friday the 22nd of March, so tomorrow until Monday the 25th of March, where we are going to be raising £50,000 to support Centre. It's the travel service that neonatal intensive babies use. Here we go. Hi, Komal. Thank you for sharing your story for such an amazing cause. Little Prem sounds like a little fighter, and extremely lucky to have you both as resilient parents. Being able to contribute to these stories through our donations and change a family's life in a very meaningful way is something the whole community can get behind. I'm sure during this blessed month. Great job as always, babe. Imran Rawat, my husband. Komal, it's the first time Komal and I have actually spoken to each other face to face. We've had a very brief phone conversation around getting together for this show. But Komal, for your benefit and for the benefit of the listeners, myself and Imran, my husband, we had Yahya a few years ago. Yahya would have turned 6 on March the 10th this year. He's no longer with us. He passed when he was 2 years old. He was born extremely complex in terms of heart conditions and that kind of thing. And I can really resonate with your journey. Yahya spent some time on the neonatal intensive care unit before being transferred to the Glenfield, where he had lots of interventions for cardiology. And we are absolutely, thrilled to... I speak for myself and my husband when I say we're absolutely thrilled to be a part of a campaign where we can try and make a difference to the lives of parents and children having to use the neonatal service and the transfer side of it. I've used it before, you've used it before, and there's hundreds of families like you and I out there who have used that transfer service before. We have about 13 or so minutes left, Komal. So can you share with me and the listeners now about how Prem is now? What's he like now? What does he like? What does he not like? What does he do at school? Does he enjoy football? Tell us a little bit about what he's like.
Prem is such an incredible little 6-year-old. He enjoys school. He likes tennis and gymnastics. He loves reading. And he's quite creative, so this year he's kind of really got involved with wanting to draw, paint, anything creative, building with Lego. He just loves spending time with his friends, and he's just got such a cheeky personality. Like you don't know what to expect with him. He'll have you in stitches.
He sounds absolutely adorable. Can you speak a little bit to the importance of having a transfer service for premature and newborn infants? Or can you imagine what it would be like if there was no such service?
Yes, I think a lot of people maybe don't know or don't appreciate the service because they've never had to use it. But speaking from my own personal sort of experiences, the service is incredible. Just knowing that your baby is in the right care, people that you can trust, and they're being moved with the right equipment that they need at that time to get them safely from one place to another. if the service wasn't there, children that needed to move from, say, one hospital to another hospital where there are specialists that can treat them, it would be impossible. I don't know how they would do it. I don't know how they would do it safely. I can't imagine how much worse that would be for the parents, because as well as the babies sort of going through this experience, the parents are, going through a lot of stress, and it just gives them one less thing to worry about,
of course,
the safety of their baby.
Yeah. We've had another message in. Thank you, Komal, for sharing your story. Such an upsetting and traumatic time. Looking forward to this weekend's Pledge Day. My sister and I have been keen fundraisers for Leicester Hospital's charity, as I myself have a rare genetic condition from birth, and the LRI team, importantly, Dr. S. Nichani, were very fantastic in diagnosing and supporting not just myself, but my family too. I think I know that that's Aisha. Aisha is an incredible young woman. She's a fantastic supporter of Leicester Hospital's charity, and she always gets behind all of the various different things that we do, and she too has utilised the Children's Hospital at Leicester for years and years and years. Thank you for your message, Aisha. It's lovely to hear from you again. We tend to only speak during Ramadan, but I would really like to catch up with you outside of Ramadan if possible. Studio line 0116 4822 086. Text or WhatsApp 07 077 488 55055. We are live on 87.7 FM. This is Radio Ramadan, and we are also on Facebook Live and YouTube Live at the moment. My name is Asiya, and I'm here with Komal Bhatt. If you've just joined us, we're here for another 8 or 9 minutes, and we're discussing the lovely Prem. Prem is Komal's 6-year-old little boy who has been through a journey and a half to be able to get to where he is at the moment. He was born prematurely at the Leicester General Hospital and was transferred by the Centre Service, which is the service for transferring newborn and premature infants between hospital sites, and in some cases between hospital and home. Prem is 6 years old now. He enjoys tennis and gymnastics, is what Komal tells us. She's been sharing with us a little bit about what her journey was like as a first-time mum, as a new mother, what it was like for her husband and her family, and what it's been like since having Prem home with them. Komal, Prem's journey, sort of, we ended there on being at the Leicester General Hospital in the nursery there. When he came home, what was that like for the first time?
When he came home, it was a relief knowing that he was okay, he was ready for home. The hospital expected him to be in for 10 weeks. We actually got him home in 5.
Amazing.
Which was, really, really special for us. But coming home can be quite scary as well, because during your time in hospital, you've kind of relied on the beeping. You've relied on the nurses. You've relied on sort of somebody always being there for the smallest thing, I don't know if Prem's okay, can you come and have a look at him? Yeah, of course he is. And now at home, you're kind of alone. So it is quite scary. And because Prem was born in winter, we weren't actually allowed to have visitors, and because we hadn't even passed his due date by that point, so until sort of end of Feb, early March, it was just me, Prem and Adish.
Yeah.
And that was lovely because it was quality time, but we were confined to the house,
of course. Yeah.
So yeah, it was worrying, I think, because sometimes he'll be asleep and you'll just go by and you just want to check on him.
And second guessing everything, right? Because you've had support and you've had people available almost at your disposal to be able to ask any questions to, in terms of nurses and doctors and that kind of thing when they're in the hospital. In terms of Prem at the moment, you've described him as being really cheeky and amazing, and I'd love to meet him on Saturday if you're going to bring him over to the Pledge Day. How would you have felt if it was Prem as well as Prem's sibling? If you were pregnant with twins and this had happened, you are one of the very unlucky ones that you didn't get to travel with Prem in that initial journey from the Leicester General to the LRI. How would you feel how would you have felt, or can you speak to how you might have felt if you'd have had 2 children in that situation instead of one?
I think I can't imagine how it would be to have two children, but I just know that from the experience of just having one, that having to choose between two, which one do you go with, which one do you leave behind, and then come back and see later, it would be heartbreaking. Yeah. I don't think anyone should be forced to make that choice. I just, as a mom, you have like that special bond with your babies, you need them both, so I can't imagine doing it. I think it would just be so much worry, so much stress and so much heartbreak. Yeah. And it's really sad. Yeah,
I agree with that. And the reason why I asked Komal that question is because we are fundraising for a twin transfer pod this weekend. This weekend, from Friday the 22nd of March to Monday the 25th of March, is Leicester Hospital's Charities Big Pledge Weekend. We have got all sorts of various different activities happening around the city. We have got a Ramadan FM Pledge Day, which is on Saturday the 23rd of March, where we'll be fundraising for a double pod incubator system, as well as kangaroo harnesses for parents and infants to be able to travel safely between site to site and in some cases between site to home. These are extremely important pieces of medical equipment whereby twins will be able to be transferred together. Parents won't have to worry about which twin to stay with at the hospital that they were born at or which twin to go with to the hospital that they're being transferred to. It's an extremely difficult decision to make, and even just having one child and not being able to transfer with them is heart-wrenching and an absolutely difficult, sort of impossible situation to be in. But having twins and having to pick between your children, having to choose which one you stay with and which one you travel with is probably one of the hardest things that I've ever heard of anyone having to do in my entire life. We are going to be here all day on Saturday. 23rd of March, we'll be at the studio. We'll be fundraising live on air during our pledge day. We'll be outside of the studio as a pledge point. We'll also be at St. George's Retail Park outside Curry's PC World. We'll be outside Brew in Oadby, and we'll be inside Tesco in Beaumont Leys. That's on Saturday. On Sunday, we'll be at Curry's PC World in St. George's Retail Park, and we'll be in Tesco Beaumont Leys, and we'll also be inside John Lewis in the High Cross. Please come and say hello. We've got tons of games. We've got goodie bags for children. If a child wants to make a donation, they can take away a goodie bag. We've got balloons. We've got stickers. We've got, really fun things happening across all of these different pledge points across the entire weekend. Please do come and say hello. We'd love to meet you. We'd love to speak to you. If you'd like to set up a fundraiser for us, as Prem has done, and I'm going to ask Komal to plug Prem's fundraiser in a moment. But if you'd like to set up your own fundraiser, please visit www.lhcharity.org.uk. In the drop down for the campaigns, you'll see the Big Pledge Weekend listed. You can click on that and create a fundraiser of your own, or you can donate on that very page. Please make sure you click the Big Pledge Weekend page to be able to make a donation towards the Neonatal Intensive Care Centre service that we're discussing here today. Komal, would you like to, in the last 1 minute of time that we've got left, plug Prem's fundraiser and tell us a little bit about what he might be doing?
Prem is going to be doing a 1K walk tomorrow. He's been going around asking all of his friends, family for sponsorships. Last night he decided that he's going to do it in fancy dress.
Oh,
so
amazing.
That'll be nice to see. But
what will he dress as?
Darth Vader.
Amazing.
Darth Vader, yeah. And I'm just really proud of him for doing this.
Yeah, it's incredible. So Prem is supporting us with doing a 1K walk. He's going to be doing that walk tomorrow. It'd be incredible if all of you could go and support him. Does he have a GoFundMe or Just Giving page?
Just Giving, yes.
Just Giving. And the name on there is
Prem
Bhatt. So if you go on to Just Giving and search Prem Bhatt, you'll be able to find Prem's page. He set out to raise about £100, I think, and he's already on £400. So let's help him to get as close to a really big number as possible. We are in the last minute now. I've been Asiya. I'm the Corporate Fundraising Officer for Leicester Hospitals Charity. With me, I've had here today Komal Bhatt, and we've been talking about her lovely little boy Prem, who's going to be fundraising for us for the Big Pledge Weekend this weekend. If you'd like to come and say hi to me or any of the team members across the weekend, please visit us at the points that I've mentioned earlier, and come down and say hi. We're in the studio all day on Saturday. We'll have lots of goodie bags to give away for children, so bring your kids, get them to make a donation, sponsor them, sponsor Prem, and if there's any businesses or any individuals out there who want to do some match funding,